Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us in the first international seminar on choreographic and artistic research, the Center of Excellence in Science and Technology for Higher Education, Choreographic and Artistic Research, PUIPTK, Indonesian Institute of the Arts, Surakarta. And today, we will talking about cultural empowerment, festival, and local knowledge. So, let's start this program with Indonesia Raya song. Thank you. And the next, we will see Mr. Dr. Eko Supriyanto, Head of PUIPT Choreographic and Artistic Research, Indonesian Institute of the Arts Surakarta, for welcoming remarks. Mr. Eko, hello.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Delani.
Okay.
Thank you so much for this seminar. Sorry, I apologize for the technical difficulty right now. I have some problem. One second. Okay. Terima kasih, Delani. The honorable leadership of ISI Surakarta and all its staff, the all international seminar speakers, and the honorable of all the committees and participants of this international seminar in ISI Surakarta. Greetings and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Cultural empowerment has been an issue for decades. Experts on humanity discipline have expanded and explained it that humans always use their culture to adapt the situation and condition in their life environment. Based on its cultural function and capacity, the ability of humans are to use, create, and develop those cultural symbols in interaction and communicating with others and overcome various problems and needs of their lives. This understanding can be a starting point for a cultural empowerment in the current era, which does not only refers to the orientation of preservation and aesthetification of living habits, but also to expand its reach and network to encourage development, as well as to increase the role of acting and on an open dialogue through culture, of course, with a broader picture of a global discourse. And furthermore, ISI Surakarta, through its studies program, academic study program, center of study, our research aim to contribute to one step ahead of preservation, development, and creation of art with deep dive on cultural research. Moreover, with such a massive disruption on this new day, a new trajectory of Indonesian archipelago and abroad, ISI Surakarta rewarded establishment of Center for Excellence in Science and Technology for Higher Education in Choreographic and Artistic Research, what we call PUIPT CARE, which is in line actually for a scientific development of choreography, which leads to honoring both creation and research as PUIPT CARE to repositioning and empowering landscape of artistic research university. The science approach of choreography has been placed in a broader context today, both as a discipline of art creation and academic study. Thus, it is an attitude of re-specifying and reapproaching empowerment of local culture, a new strategy of designing relocalization, urgency with both of choreographic and scientific approach, knowledge space and research space, will be a golden ticket for repositioning and rebranding artistic and research for art on the work of art and the level of the equal stages. PUIPT CARE, ISI Surakarta, has expanded its reach and networking into a social and breakthrough cultural events involving also assisting. And in the end of the day, it is empowering the potential of nature, resource, and existing cultural and artistic wisdom that organize sustainability of festival. ISI Surakarta, for example, has been collaborated deeply with Kabupaten Pulau Morotai in North Maluku, with Kabupaten Belu in East Nusa Tenggara, Kabupaten Taliwang in West Nusa Tenggara, West Sumbawa to be precise, and of course, Kepulauan Tidore, Kota Kepulauan Tidore in North Maluku. Today, we're proud to hold this first international seminar on choreographic and artistic research, ISCAR #1 2021, with the theme of cultural empowerment, festival, and local knowledge through strengthen and of course to develop artistic research approach as a choreographic research, choreographic practice, nor scientific humanity as part of our legacy in life. The field of performing arts today, I do believe, it's a cultural empowerment and redesigning research and development program. In the field of choreographic, to be precise, and the artistic research, as well as the management, and of course, the development of performing arts, events, and festival, redesigning form of cultural and layering those empowerment in this field of choreography, performing arts, and of course the festivals, it is very, very urgent nowadays. So to be making short, let us begin this honoring method and strategies of creating choreographic work. And of course, art management that involve in the process, curating program, organizing festival, cultural crossing or cross-cultural program, collaborating, and of course, that is very important today to understanding what is the art production. In order to regain the strength of choreographic as part of a scientific field, art for the legacy, and in advance, cultural as part of a global discourse that is happening today. And of course, to discovering the world diversity, as we all know, it's very urgent in this part of the time, after this pandemic era. I would like to say a very warm regards and most appreciation to the speakers for sharing their knowledge with the participant, Ibu Sadiah Boonstra, independent producer, Melbourne University Curator, Singapore Art Museum, and historian. And of course, Mas Wasi Bantolo, one of the staff member at the Faculty of the Performing Art Dance Department in ISI Surakarta, that is very talented dancer, choreographer, and also international artist that is having many collaborating. And then the last one, Miss Karina Yang, Project Manager National Theater and Concert Hall, Taiwan, Taipei, Art Management Program. We are very fortunate to be able to presenting these outstanding speakers in the front of the seminar participant to embody it, to expand the scientific perspective on choreography and artistic research. Finally, congratulations on joining this international seminar. On behalf of the community, we apologize, of course, if there are many shortcomings in the organizing of these activities. Thank you very much. Have and enjoy this very beautiful and important international seminar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Dr. Eko Supriyanto, MFA, to welcoming remarks from Head of POEPT Choreographic and Artistic Research, ISI Surakarta. And before go to the main program, so I will inform you if a form will be sent to the chat bar, so fill out to get the certificate. Okay, let's see the moderator, Nervita Primadewi, M.Sn.
Thank you, Rani. Good morning. I'm very honored to be moderating this seminar. Before we begin, allow me to read the curriculum vitae of the speaker. This is a very marvelous CV. First of all, the curriculum vitae for Dr. Boonstra, Sadiah Boonstra. She is a PhD history from VU University Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Master of Art degree in Curatorial Studies, University of Amsterdam, and then also double master on history in Leiden University. She's currently founder and director of the Culture Lab Consultancy Jakarta, Indonesia. Asia Scholar, Melbourne University, Curator Public Programs Asia, TOPA, Melbourne, Australia, from 2019 to 2020. This is a very long CV, and it's kind of intimidating to read this. Her research activity and publication, including Wayang Superstars, History, Heritage, and the Politics of Performance Practice in Indonesia, review on Jan Mrazek, Wayang and its doubles, Javanese Puppet Theater. I only read several of it. The second speaker will be Miss Karina Yang. Karina is from Nantau, Taiwan. She currently works in National Theater and Concert Hall as a project manager and producer, focusing on dance and theater production. Having previously worked for Kwandu Art Festival as project coordinator. She obtained her master's degree in art administration and management from Taipei National University of the Arts. Having previously gained a bachelor degree in business, Karina is interested in cross-cultural collaboration. Her recently transnational projects include Ita and Ari-Ari, Taiwan and Indonesia, and In the Solitude of Cotton Fields, Taiwan and France. Last but not least, I will read the curriculum vitae of Mr. Wasi Bantolo. Again, this is a very exceptional curriculum vitae. Wasi Bantolo, complete name Matheus Wasi Bantolo, was born in Central Java City of Surakarta. He earned his master's degree at prestigious Indonesian Institute of the Arts Surakarta, where he pursued dance choreography, dance music, and dance analysis while teaching classic Javanese dance. He became the head of Center of World Dance Studies in ISI Surakarta and head of International Center ISI Surakarta. Since early 90s, Wasi was choreographed and composed a lot of Javanese pieces and has performed in USA, Belgium, the Netherlands, Germany, Japan, Singapore, Thailand, Sweden, and the Philippines. He has received numerous awards, including, Best Actor of the National Wayang Orang Festival of Classical Dance Drama in 1993. I don't have to read all the CV. I think all of you already know his achievement. Currently, Mas Wasi is pursuing his PhD at ISI Surakarta. Now, without further ado, each speaker will have 30 minutes, maximum 30 minutes, and then we will have Q&A in the end of the session. Is that all right with you? Okay, we will start with Dr. Sadiah, and the time is yours.
Thank you so much, Ibu Nafita, and I also wish to really thank the Center for Excellence in Science and Technology, College of Choreography and Artistic Research, PUI, Team Care, and ISI Surakarta, and especially really warm thanks to Dr. Eko Supriyanto for inviting me here today. It's really a great honor to be here with you and to be kicking off the first international webinar for your amazing initiative. So congratulations on that as well. Today, as Ibu Nafita introduced, I would like to share some of my work. I'm trained as a historian and curator, and I specialize in colonial history. And I'm specifically interested in how history is really part of the present. But we also need to rewrite certain histories for a more just and more equal future. So since the early 2000s, I've been working on a very broad practice as a scholar, a researcher, as a curator, but also as a programmer and as a producer, amongst others, Eko Supriyanto's newest work, Ibu Ibu Belu, Bodies of Border. So I will get to that later on. So I would like to share my screen with you. Yes, okay. So this is me. So the red thread of my practice is really a decolonial approach, and to this decolonial approach, I will also return later in depth. What I want to say about it is that I try to consciously work towards moving away from a Eurocentric and North American or Anglo-Saxon worldview in my cultural practice. And this includes the production of knowledge and of arts, both visual arts and performing arts. And to me, it really also means a reappreciation and highlighting of local and indigenous knowledges and their affiliated artistic and cultural practices. One of the important things in this is also for me to try to bring these local knowledges and cultural practices to an international platform. And for today, I would like to focus on knowledge, knowledge production, the framing of knowledge, and how we can challenge dominant knowledge systems, such as our own knowledge that we produce in academia. And by doing so, I suggest that we relink and reconnect with local knowledges. I use the plural here, knowledges, instead of knowledge, to emphasize that there are many different knowledges and ways of knowing across the world. And I'm inspired in this by decolonial thinkers from South America, such as Walter Mignolo and Catherine Walsh, Aníbal Quijano and Maria Lugones. Walter Mignolo and Catherine Walsh wrote on decoloniality, concepts, analytics, praxis in 2018. And for me, this is a very interesting approach. For example, Catherine Walsh defines decoloniality as ways of thinking, knowing, being, and doing that began with, but also precede the colonial enterprise and invasion. Coloniality implies the recognition and undoing of the hierarchical structures of race, gender, heteropatriarchy, and class that continue to control life, knowledge, spirituality, and thought, structures that are clearly intertwined with and constitutive of global capitalism and Western modernity. An important thing to notice here is that decoloniality is not a static condition. It's not just a concept, but it is. Sorry, I think I hear someone on the microphone. Okay, I will just continue. So what I was saying is decoloniality is not just a concept or a static condition, but it's really an attitude to and tries to make visible and open up and advance radically distinct perspectives and positionalities that displace so-called Western rationality and as the only framework and possibility of existence, analysis, and thought. So this makes it possible that a decolonial approach is not just a concept, but also a praxis, and a praxis. It's something that we can apply in our daily life and in our cultural and artistic practices. For me, it's also very useful as a way to look beyond the colonial framework and really relink and reconnect with what was there already before colonialism, but that was silenced, rendered invisible, or has been erased, including local knowledges. So knowledges are often embedded in a number of things. It can be in objects, stories, rituals, the body, as you all know, and in performance practices, such as the Hawaiian performance practice. So in 2003, Hawaiian was proclaimed UNESCO Masterpiece of the Oral and Intangible Heritage, and UNESCO became a so-called universal frame to understand Hawaiian. So I wondered, how does something become heritage? Heritage doesn't exist in itself or intrinsically. You cannot go around the world and sort of find heritage, but something is really appointed or labeled heritage. So it is ultimately people that decide what is heritage, what people deem important enough from the past to keep for future generations. And at the same time, it also creates a mechanism of exclusion and suggests that what is not proclaimed as heritage is not worthwhile keeping. But the question is, who decides that and how does that process evolve? So for my PhD research, I looked into dynamics of heritage making for wayang from the colonial times to the 2010s. So this means that I looked at discourses of how was wayang described from colonial times to the present, how has it been interpreted, and how has it functioned and been used over time. So structures of coloniality continue to influence our understanding of wayang today, is what I found. During colonial times, wayang came to be regarded as high culture, a mirror of life and Japanese nature, in which mystical and philosophical elements were emphasized. And this particular specific image became the model for what wayang should be and is still fundamental for the understanding of wayang today. At the same time, I was also very curious to know how puppeteers or dalang create their practice. So I'm sure that some of you are really familiar with your colleague at ISI Surakarta, Ki Purba Asmoro, and then Ki Mantap Sudarsono, who sadly passed away earlier this year, as well as Ki Ntusus Mono, who passed away in 2018. So I had the privilege of following these puppeteers to many of their shows and to try to understand how they relate to the concept of heritage. So what I found is that there is a lot of different influences that create and shape wayang. There's history, there's commerce, there's mass media, there's innovation, there are those mystical and philosophical elements. And all of that contribute to our understanding of wayang. And I learned many things. And one is that UNESCO's heritage discourse, the universal frame of knowledge that frames wayang in a universal frame of knowledge, is something that dalang relate to, but deal with very differently. So the concept of heritage, of UNESCO's heritage, influences wayang shows and dalang to a limited extent and in a very indirect manner. So not every dalang is as much concerned with heritage concept, but it also doesn't. But it also doesn't mean that they don't really care what scholars or policymakers say. So there is an interaction between the performance practice and knowledge production. Now I want to move on to another, some other projects of mine that I did at the National Gallery in Singapore, where I worked as a senior programmer from 2017 to 2019. And there I was trying to apply what I learned from my research, thinking about dominating discourses of history and art. And generally, I try to introduce visual arts to broader audiences, but I also use the programs, the public programs, as a platform for voices that were not included in the exhibitions. So an exhibition is always a selection made by curators, as is programming and curation of performing arts. And I wanted to use the programs as an addition to the exhibitions, but as a way to offer new perspectives and insight that could not be incorporated, or at least were not visible in the exhibitions. So I decided to bring performing arts into the museum to introduce art to people interested in other art forms, such as literature, music, and dance. And we created programs in which people could explore the connection between, for example, their bodies, their emotions, and the artworks that they would find in the gallery. So one example that I wanted to share with you is the example of an artistic intervention that I worked on with Eko Supriyanto. So the National Gallery in Singapore held this exhibition Between Worlds on Raden Saleh, Indonesia's foremost painter, as well as Juan Luna, which is kind of his counterpart in the Philippines. And it was the Raden Saleh exhibition was a very large overview exhibition, which brought about 80 works of the painter from around the world to Singapore. And it was the biggest solo show on Raden Saleh ever around the world. But it was in Singapore, so it was a show that would not be traveling also to Indonesia. So it was not necessarily accessible to Indonesians. Another consideration that I had was the limited involvement of Indonesian voices and scholarship in the exhibition on Raden Saleh. So I wanted to provide a platform to have, to bring in other voices from Indonesia in the exhibition. So I invited Dr. Eko Supriyanto to create an artistic intervention. And he created a very beautiful work, which was entitled Standing Woman, Force of Nature. And it was a 4-hour durational piece that moved through the exhibition. As you can see here, mimicking the movements in the paintings, but was also inspired by Raden Saleh's biography and the position of his wife. The performance then ended in front of the forest fire, so it moved through the whole museum, all the way to the other side of the building to end in front of the forest fire. That is Raden Saleh's biggest painting at the National Gallery, which was bought from the Dutch royal family, but was never being offered to Indonesia. So very apt closing for this artistic intervention. We did a similar thing for the Juan Luna exhibition, where I invited Isa Hodgson to create an artistic intervention or a response to Juan Luna's paintings. And she created Luna Tunes, which were short performances of 20 minutes that were accompanied by a curated playlist that led the audience through the exhibition. And her movements in combination with the playlist challenged the audience to look at the art and at Juan Luna as an artist from a very different perspective, also problematizing his achievements as an artist as opposed to his personal character. And in the last segment, Isa explored the concept of between worlds of Filipino nightlife music and modern art. Then this is another example that I wanted to share with you, the Asia Topa, Asia Topa project. So in 2020, so last year for Asia Topa, I was curator of public programs. And Asia Topa is a triennial for the performing arts from the Asia Pacific, based at Art Centre Melbourne in Australia. So it's a new works festival, which means that it really focuses on new work, intercultural work, which resulted in 23 new commissions that would connect artists from Australia, from the Asia Pacific to each other and presented at the festival. So for the public programs, I curated close to 50 programs myself, and I worked with a lot of other collaborators across the city on many more other programs. The concept of my approach to the public programs was that I wanted to try to decenter existing knowledge in Australia and expand their frameworks of understanding performing arts from the region of the Asia Pacific. So I wanted to use the public programs as a platform for conversations for issues at play in the region. So I meant to do this to show the audiences in Australia that the works that would be created around the Asia Pacific were not created in a vacuum. It's connected to themes, to issues that are urgent in the Asia Pacific region, such as colonialism again, its legacies, but also religion, LGBTQI+ issues, migration, language, climate crisis, and other topics, to show that all of the performing arts from the region are in a way influenced by the way of being and living daily life and realities in the Asia Pacific. So I wanted to really offer fresh insights and perspectives on these issues, led by voices from the Asia Pacific, led by artists, scholars, and activists from the region. So I created a lot of workshops, artist talks. Here are some examples of some talks that we did at M Pavilion, which was like more of an open space where we could showcase artists. Here you see Ensemble Tikoro from Bandung that was involved in a intercultural collaboration with Lucy Guerin, but also Camilla Andini, and workshops, for example, with Garen Nugroho on the planets in collaboration with VCA, College of the Arts at Melbourne University. So these are some examples of Asia Topa, what I did at Asia Topa. So meanwhile, I'd also been working with Dr. Eko Suprianto since 2018, since we met actually in Singapore on Ibu Ibu Belu. And I was involved, or I am still involved, as a producer of this work. And Eko came to me at the time with this idea that he had of making a performance with dancers from Belu in NTT, bordering on independent Timor-Leste. So I made a little map to show you where Belu is for those who don't know. So this is on the left-hand side, you see the map of Indonesia, and then a little bit of Australia, Northern Australia. And then on the right-hand side, we zoom in and we see there the region of Belu, a little bit towards the left of the photo. So this is where Eko traveled monthly to work with 6 selected dancers and create a new work. And I was very happy to be involved in this because as we were talking about the idea that Eko had for this performance, we sort of like crafted the concept of bodies and borders. And what Eko told me was about this, the Likurai tradition or the Likurai performance practice is that originates from Belu from Timor actually, is that it's known all over the island of Timor, both in Timor-Leste side and Indonesian side. And then the work would be an exploration of rhythm, textile, and songs, as well as based on embodied memories, histories, and the pain of trauma of being separated from families and friends. So the idea took more shape, that the work is really about an exploration of the history of the dance of Likurai through movement, rhythm, songs, and textiles as markers and carriers of memory and knowledge. And the kinship of the people that are now divided by politically imposed borders is embedded, embodied, and expressed in Likurai. And those memories are really embodied in the 6 dancers of Ibu Ibu Belu. And one of them actually originates from East Timor, and they can express their lived histories in Likurai. So in a way, the work, as I see it, Ibu Ibu Belu, is a paradoxical proof that bodies challenge political boundaries, while at the same time they remain restricted by them. So a very sort of like real expression of what is happening in Belu. So I just wanted to share some pictures with you. These are some PR pictures that we have, and then some performance pictures. So why it was important for me to come on board on this for this work is that it was, for me, it's about highlighting local knowledges, but also decentering Europe and to offer Europe and the world other ways of knowing, other ways of embodying knowledge, maybe ways that are not familiar to a global audience or to a European audience, but are nevertheless as valuable as any other tradition dance form that would originate from Europe or North America. And for me, it's also important to challenge what is understood as contemporary dance on the global platform. To me, the Likurai practice is contemporary. It is practiced today. It was practiced yesterday. It will be practiced tomorrow, and it will be practiced next year. So for me, that is what makes it contemporary. And what I also learned, from example, from my PhD research is that I try to very consciously think of the use of the word tradition as it implies, as it applies in opposition to modernity and as an extension thereof also of contemporaneity. So that tradition is associated with something that has never changed, something that is backward, something that is static and it's not moving. And I think it's our task to sort of like get rid of that and to show the world that there are local knowledges and local embodied knowledges that are contemporaneous, and that we have to get rid of these colonial constructed categories of tradition as opposed to modernity or contemporaneity. So maybe I think my time is almost up. I think what I wanted to share with you a little bit further is to think about, the challenges as a producer to bring works that are based on local embodied knowledges to an international audience, is the question how to ensure that the work is not exoticized or orientalized, fetishized, or understood through an ethnographic lens, and how to ensure a safe and respectful framework in which the work can land, can be viewed, and can be understood. And that is a continuous challenge for which I don't have like a clear-cut answer, because coloniality continues to exist and people continue to think in colonially constructed categories such as tradition and modernity. So that is something that I, as the producer of Ibu Belu, encounter almost on a daily basis, which requires really small battles, but still very regular battles, small battles that are big at the same time, like asking the PR people who write blurbs based on the blurb that we provide to not use the word tradition, but find another way of expressing what the essence of the work is. So to counter or to deal with issues like that, I'm working with independent producers Jala Adolphus and Freya Watterson, both Australia-based at the moment, on a project which is called Supporting Intercultural Practice and Presentation, as we are acutely aware of the disconnects that is often experienced by audiences between what they are seeing and experiencing with and the social, cultural, and political context in which artists develop their work. So work that has their roots in a local practice is prone to being either oversimplified, fetishized, orientalized, or exoticized by not just the audiences, but also the presenters. So this is a project that I've been working on with them since 2018. It was seated at Asia Producers Platform Camp in Indonesia, and we have subsequently hosted a number of discussions as part of Asia TOPA's public programs, in collaboration with Melbourne University, but also APAM's exchange program, and more recently at LifeWorks, also in Australia. So we address these questions of cultural hierarchies and try to introduce considerations to larger audiences of how we can present and make sure that works based on local knowledges are understood in a more and received in a more equal and just fair way, basically. We also received a small grant from Australia Council of the Arts to work on this, and we are thinking of ways of how to provide more context to the works that we're producing, and context of how it was produced as well, to create more awareness about these issues of coloniality, about issues of racial inequality for the performing arts. To me, I think this is what I just, maybe one last remark is that I think a lot of what also Dr. Echo was referring to in the opening is, to me at least, is about sort of so-called unlearning of structures, unlearning of colonial knowledge production, and challenging ourselves to look for what was lost or what is there but has been overlooked, what has been silent and rendered invisible by coloniality, and what can we do to reappreciate these local knowledges and to highlight these local knowledges and to bring them to an international audience and stages. So this is what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for your attention and for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sadiah. Please me to translate it in Indonesia, just the gist of your presentation. Jadi Dr. Sadiah itu berbicara tentang bagaimana konsep beliau tentang berpindah dari Eurocentric. Maaf, saya beralih-alih dari bahasa ini agak susah. Nanti lama-lama saya ngomong Jawa soalnya. Jadi mulai berbicara tentang mengubah, jadi mulai berbicara tentang local knowledge, tentang pengetahuan lokal untuk challenge pengetahuan yang sudah mapan gitu, untuk menantang pengetahuan yang sudah mapan, mulai dengan pemikiran dekolonialisasi. Dr. Sadiah mengatakan bahwa kolonialis itu berada pada mental gitu. Jadi sesuatu yang pengetahuan yang sudah menubuh. Nah, yang menarik dari presentasi beliau, yang beberapa yang saya catat adalah, yang menarik juga nanti untuk didiskusikan adalah berbicara tentang bagaimana tubuh itu bercerita tentang sejarah. Ditunjukkan dari karya dari Mas Eko ketika berbicara ibu-ibu Belu, ketika tarian itu berbicara tentang memori, tentang pengetahuan. Kemudian bagaimana karya seni itu juga berbicara tentang trauma, tentang keluarga yang terpisah. Nah, pada tarian ibu-ibu Belu tadi disebutkan bahwa ada sebuah paradoks bahwa sebuah ketubuhan itu melakukan sebuah perlawanan tetapi juga mengikat, karena disitulah biasanya orang akan tinggal atau akan bertempat. Kemudian ini kemudian pentingnya ketika mencoba untuk memikirkan ulang gitu tentang tari kontemporer itu apa, karena kita dibiasakan untuk melakukan perbandingan antara tradisional itu musuhnya modern, kemudian kalau tradisional itu berarti tidak kontemporer. Oleh Bu Sadiah dibicarakan bahwa kontemporer itu berarti bahwa sesuatu yang tari-tari yang dilakukan tadi disebutkan, kalau saya tidak salah, mohon dibetulkan kalau saya salah, likurai itu masih ditarikan kemarin, hari ini dan besok. Itu artinya itu adalah sesuatu yang kontemporer. Itu mengubah paradigma berpikir bahwa tradisi itu berlawanan dengan modern. Ini sesuatu yang perlu kita catat dan akan bisa didiskusikan lebih lanjut. Kita sering tidak menyadari bahwa perlawanan tradisi dan modern itu sebuah konstruk dari kolonial yang kemudian meletakkan tradisi itu sebagai sesuatu yang tidak berubah, sesuatu yang statis. Tetapi pada saat yang sama, gitu, yang sedang yang dilakukan ketika mengangkat sebuah karya lokal, pengetahuan lokal adalah bagaimana untuk tidak menjadikan mengeksotisasi tarian ataupun local knowledge yang ada, kemudian bersikap hormat, dan yang paling penting nilai yang hendak disampaikan itu bisa dipahami oleh para penontonnya. Nah, beberapa kata kunci yang menarik dari presentasi Bu Sadiah adalah ketika kita mencoba untuk meletakkan sesuatu yang dulu kita pandang sebagai sesuatu yang berhenti, tetapi kemudian sekarang kita melihatnya dari sesuatu yang baru, bahwa apa yang kita pahami sebagai tradisi local knowledge, sebagai pengetahuan lokal, itu bukan sesuatu yang terbelakang, tetapi sesuatu yang justru bisa diolah untuk membicarakan, untuk mereorientasi posisi kita di dalam dunia kesenian, dan bagaimana kesenian seperti yang juga diajukan oleh PU ISCAR, bagaimana kesenian itu berbicara di luar kesenian itu sendiri. Thank you, Dr. Sadiah. And for the second speaker, we will welcome Mr. Wasi Bantolo. Monggo Mas Wasi.
Tes. Oke, matur nuwun Mbak Nirpita Prima Dewi, kan PhD candidate. Thank you very much. The moderator gave me time to speak in this prestigious seminar, international seminar. Berkah kawilujengan kabagyan katentreman tansah lumebar dumateng kita sedaya. Rahayu. May God be with us, bless us, and give us everything, and we get safe, healthy, and glorious. Matur nuwun. And this is really honor for me to be the speaker of this seminar, this international seminar, and of course, I thank you very much for all participants, and of course, and for the speakers. And also moderator, and of course my mentor, my senior, and my best friend, Mas Dr. Dr. Eko Supriyanto, MFA. Here I would like to share, actually I want to share my experience, my experience related with my work in this seminar. The PowerPoint, please. Yeah, I'm apologize actually with my old-fashioned PowerPoint here because I just prepared it last night for this seminar. Thank you, Mas Nandang, who prepared my PowerPoint. Okay, in this seminar, I would like to share about the culture of the body in dance, in cultural empowerment for dance creation. Like I mentioned before in the first, that I would like to share my experience related with my work, my choreographic work. My choreographic work is the choreography with based on the classical Javanese dance. And of course, my genre of my work is an opera, a dance opera. If we talk about the culture of the body in dance, actually, we want to talk about the choreography. If we want to talk about choreography, of course, we talk about the cultural. And we talk about the cultural, what we should do is an empirical experience, and the literature has an important thing to do, to work, and to make a new choreography. Because in this experience, empirical experience, actually we should see the cultural of the body and of course the cultural of the dance. So this both side we cannot separate out, because this really important for us to make new choreography. Here I'm actually not only a choreographer but also a researcher here. That's why when I do my work, of course I do a lot of things, to think a lot of things, and then to make something and to see something else and to see something inside me and to see out again. And then we talk about the culture itself. Actually, we talk about the dance as an aesthetic thing, and also we talk the body as a way of life and of the values of the people, the values of the thing that already mentioned by our speaker before. And then how it become embodied and become a new choreography. Next, Mas. Yes, if we talk about we should do something before making a new choreography, actually we do a long journey, according to myself, because I'm working a lot with the new opera, of new Javanese dance opera. But before that, it's related what I did before. It's a long journey of understanding the culture. Long journey of understanding the culture, because I know already this culture since I was in the home of my mother. Because my mother is also a dalang and also a scriptwriter of Javanese drama, and also my father also a dalang and also a composer and also Javanese musician. That's why if we talk about the culture, it's already there since before I born, and then I have lived in the environment of Javanese culture. And according to that, actually, I make two statements of it before we talk about to make a new choreography. It's related with experiencing and reading. Experiencing and reading. Readings mean that we are not only read a book, but reading the culture itself. We read what happened, the people around us, what happened in the everyday life of the people, and then we read what happened around us, and then what happened in the environment, the nature, and everything. And experiencing is how our body has an experience, how an experience to deal with this culture. For example, if the experience and the reading of it. If we also eat here, we take a shower, the water from Javanese water, and then we eat the food of Javanese food. And the way we eat, the way we walk, the way we talk, and the way we do something else, and we make a relationship with other people. Dan bagaimana kita melakukan semua itu dengan penuh kesadaran bahwa itu menjadi bagian dari kehidupan kita. It become part of our life. We do it as our experiencing of the body, experiencing of the mind, experiencing of the heart. Since it become embodied to myself and embodied to the creator, and then we do the process of creating. And we do the process of creating, actually we rewriting of it. After we read it and when experiencing of it, and then we rewrite of it. When we rewrite of it, it doesn't mean that we just read everything we see and then we write it again. Rewrite, it means that we try to put something else, to put something that we know, our knowledge and our experience in other that we always do every day in everyday life. And then we also, of course, in choreographic process, we do the experimenting, rewriting and then experimenting. We do some experience, we explore it, and then we make something, oh, what we can do next, what we can do next. Oh, we should do anything again and again, and to make it something new, something new coming from what we read and what our experience before. Next. And of course, this is the meaning of the empowering of the culture. And again, in the other thing, when we empowering the culture, it coming up the issues of it. The issues of the empowering of the culture, actually, what happened with the culture itself. What the issues? It become our anxiety, become our restlessness, kegelisahan kita. Bagaimana kita melihat, kita menjadi gelisah setelah kita melihat budaya itu. Ya, karena kita berada di dalam, dan as an insider, and of course sometimes I become the outsider of it. I can see what the issues and what happened actually in the cultural that become my idea, the cultural that I want to make new thing. The first issue is sense of belonging and awareness. Sometimes sense of belonging, because sometimes we not realize that we have it. We have this culture, we have this thing, we have the our richness of this culture, and it's something that far away from our awareness of it. When we don't have the sense of belonging and we don't have the awareness of the culture, of course, it's really difficult to catch up and to know the culture and to recreate of it. And the second issue is the gap. Right now we see, if we want to do the choreography, of course, the gap is really important thing that we have to think, because when we make a choreography, we have to work with the dancer. The dancer itself, the body of the dancer. The body of the dancer has a gap with the body of the cultural, or the cultural body itself. When the dancer has a gap with the body of the culture, of course, it's a problem. Because right now, if we want to make, we want to dance, for example, the Javanese classical dance. In my sample is Doyo, for example. The dancer right now live in a global environment, in the digital environment, using every day they use the cell phone, and to work with the small thing and just see everything with the cell phone, and they not akrab apa ya? They're not more familiar with the nature anymore. They never see the nature. They don't see the plant, the beauty of mountain, the beauty of the sky and everything, because they always see the cell phone. That's like a problem for the dancer to embody the dance into their body, because this dance is created long time ago, long journey before we have this virtual, the technology, the everyday life that's really different from when the dance was created. That's the gap issues. That's the problem. If we create something and then we see the dancer has the distance, the dancer has a distance with the cultural. And the third one is supporting ecosystem. When we create something based on the culture, based on what we have before. Supporting ecosystem means that people surround us, the government, the political, the ideology, such a thing that make us not that in this ecosystem of the cultural was created. Next. Now, I want to talk about this process of empowering the cultural to work on my new opera choreographic. In this point, I would like to talk that as a researcher, in this research thing and the creating thing, the subject is actually me and myself. Why we talk with me and myself? If we create something in me and myself, actually, we talk about what should I do as a creator? What should I do when I do something and I create something new in my work? Of course, if we talk about me and myself, it's also sometimes we become outsider, we become insider, like I mentioned before. Then when we talk about me and the creating process, actually we talk about, again, like I mentioned in the first part, that we will work on dance and body culture. Dance as an aesthetic thing, what the base of my work, what the cultural as the background of my work. Sometimes if we want to do a new choreography based on the culture, we visit the place and we learn the place, we learn the dance, we learn the people. It's not only learning the vocabulary of the dance. We are not only learning the counting system of the movement. For example, we're not only learning the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, we will do not mind 10, just 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Or 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, it's sometimes we are not only learning the vocabulary of the dance when we want to dance. As a dancer, it's not only they present their body, they move their body, they are not only doing that as a dancer. And as a choreographer, we are not only put together of the movement, put together of the music, of the culture itself, and then put it here, and then, oh yeah, we just create something new. And then we put it together, all the tradition, we put all together inside that. Now, from the sample of myself, when I learn the culture to create my work, as I mentioned that it's a long journey when I was child, and then I grew up with this culture. I'm here and I learned this culture since I was child, and I listen to the music. I always go with my father to the place that he performed, and also my mother make a wayang, pasado puppet and everything. And I also come to the palace of the Keraton Surakarta, for example. I become the dancer in this palace. That's become embodied to myself for a long time on long journey. Now, learning the culture, that's why, for example, of the Javanese classical opera as an idea of my work. For the three things that become my base working on my opera work is Bedoyo, Wayang Wong, Langandrian. It's a traditional, no, I'm sorry, I don't want to use my traditional word. The classical Javanese opera, Bedoyo, Wayang Wong, and Langandrian, and also, of course, I see the other operas, something like Les Miserables opera, The Cats, and then if we see Phantom of the Opera by Andrew Lloyd Webber, The Cats by Andrew Lloyd Webber, and of course, Les Miserables and other opera. And also I have an experience with the choir, the church choir as my formal religion in my formal ID. And then this is my other side, and the other side about the body cultural, my body cultural. And then we learn it, and we just make what to see as insider, and as outsider. When we see something, of course we have to see what in body culture, human characteristic, cosmology, agraris culture. Actually, I want to add one more, palace cultural in there. It's not only agraris cultural, but also palace cultural if we talk about the classical Javanese dance. Now, in this two things about the body of the culture and the body of the dance, and the dance cultural, it become embodied as the voice and the movement. The voice and the movement that in this culture, it's not only coming from the vocabulary of the dance, vocabulary of musicality in this opera, but it's coming from everyday life, the value of the everyday life, and it's become embodied to the choreographer, and it transfer it to the dancer or the actor. When we transfer it, what it's coming out of the dancer as penguasa di atas panggung itu adalah penari atau pelaku di dalam sebuah koreografi. That's why we need to do something and create them when they are on the stage, they get the honest body, not just diindah-indahkan, not just make it beauty-beautyan, but make it honest body, how the body it's coming, and then how the movement it's developed, coming from this idea, coming with the everyday life, and then it's coming out, and then we move. The movement, I call it honest body. Next. In my work, that I call it an opera choreographic, is actually a reflection of dance, cultural and body cultural. Dance cultural as an artistic and aesthetic thing. The body cultural is the way of life, the values and everything. When I do the work of the opera, of course, I have to know about the bedoyo, how the bedoyo dancer move, and how to listen to the gending, how to listen to music, how the music is coming to be embodied for the dancer. Ande papu. It's not only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1. Not only about that, but also how it's related with the musicality. When wayang wong, the actor, the dancer, they can talk. Kula wonten dawuh pukulun kawula menika tiyang ingkang boten. Nah, we know the tuning. The variation of the voice that develop coming from the actor or the dancer. And also we have to mastering the story behind it. Story about Mahabharata, Ramayana, Panji story and everything. The story become the dance and also the song and everything. It's to be together and then we mastering and into my body and then we see the everyday life and everything. Now we create something, the new Javanese dance opera. Sometimes we put the the classical Javanese gending, but sometimes also we create new one. But of course, the new one is not really far away from what we know, not really far away from what we learned before. Something in our body already. So that when we try to do something and we make a new choreography, it's actually a lot of things that we have to do. Sometimes we do a long journey. And also, in a researcher or an anthropologist said that it's an ethnographic process, ethnographic long journey process to get something new in the new Javanese, atau I mention it as the now Javanese dance opera. The now Javanese dance opera. It's coming from the how the movement, how the voice and everything become a kinesthetic voice. It's not only embodied voice, but also kinesthetic voice, because the movement is an aesthetic movement that coming from the voice that the dancer sing. The sing is coming from this culture, and make it together. But if we want to put together all this culture, it's not only we just put it the vocabulary. We are not only to put bahannya, the form, the bentuk-bentuknya, but the value behind it, what the essential thing behind this idea. And then we can move and we can sing and we can listen something as into the new one. And then we create the new one and we develop something new, and then we move, we sing, and we celebrate on the stage what we get before. So in the last but not least, as it's not a conclusion actually, but when we create something, it's not easy as easy as we just put together the thing, but we have to know more, to read more, to learn more, to come, to face it, and then interpret with it. Experiencing, reading. Yeah. And then we do, and as the creating thing, we have experimenting, and then rewriting. Rewrite again, we make an experience, and to make a new one. Next. In my beberapa karya yang mungkin bisa saya lihatkan, this is the Kayungyun, the Max Opera. I create the Max Dance Opera since 2012, and then it's renew in a different kind of form. And the next, Opera Tanding Gending, the Mothers, I created Tanding Gending first time in 2006, and after 2006 I renew it again in 2012, and then make renew again in the 2017 with, and I changed the style, and then I changed, and the last one, Tanding Gending become an a cappella Tanding Gending, the Mothers. The concept of how the gending, tanding, it's the fight, ya. Tanding itu bisa katakan fight. The musical fight. Or before I make it in US. The battle. Yeah, the musical battle. Because I make it before in 2005 in USA, call it lyrical tension. Next. And I forget the year, but when I create Abadi, I make it together with Mas Rama Suprapto as the director and become the choreographer. We perform it in Candi Boko, the Boko temple at that time. Next. And the last one I just created this year, my new experiment, I do the dance a cappella. So the performance of the dance without a musical instrument. We just do the vocal and how the vocal itself become embodied, and the kinesthetic voice coming, the honest body from the dancer. Terima kasih. Matur nuwun, waktu kami kembalikan kepada Mbak Nirpita Prima Dewi, Ibu Popi, kandidat PhD. Matur nuwun.
Matur nuwun Mas Wasi. Thank you Mas Wasi. Do you want me to give the gist of your presentation or not? Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Jadi Mas Wasi berbicara tentang, ini sebenarnya sangat menarik, tidak jauh dengan yang dibicarakan oleh Bu Sadiah tadi, berbicara tentang empirical experience, gitu, pengalaman empiris ketika sesuatu yang dicapai Mas Wasi pada saat ini tidak berdiri sendiri, tetapi berdasarkan sebuah perjalanan panjang, baik melalui latar belakang keluarga maupun pengalaman. Yang menarik, salah satu yang diungkapkan oleh Mas Wasi yang menarik adalah ketika berbicara tentang kegelisahan, bahwa sebagai seorang seniman, Mas Wasi itu selain mengalami, dia juga membaca apa yang sudah dilakukan maupun lingkungan sekitarnya. Ini sesuatu yang menarik yang kemudian kalau dihubungkan dengan apa yang tadi dipaparkan oleh Bu Sadiah adalah bagaimana sebuah karya seni itu tentu saja tidak berdiri sendiri sebagai sebuah karya seni. Tadi ada beberapa hal yang digarisbawahi oleh Mas Wasi, salah satunya adalah sense of belonging. Ini menjadi sangat penting bagaimana seorang penari, seorang koreografer itu kemudian harus mempunyai rasa kepemilikan atau mungkin menjadi satu dengan lingkungannya, karena tadi disebutkan juga menjadi familiar with the environment, karena tadi berbicara tentang, kalau saya tidak salah, culture, apa Mas mau?
Cultural body?
Ya, cultural body itu kan sesuatu yang budaya tubuh gitu ya, sesuatu yang sangat dekat dengan apa yang ada di lingkungannya. Kemudian Mas Wasi juga menyebutkan hal yang sama, berbicara tentang pengalaman adalah pengetahuan gitu, yang kemudian menjadi dasar ketubuhan gitu. Tadi kembali lagi tentang proses yang dilakukan oleh Mas Wasi adalah menjadi kritis terhadap apa yang dilihat, apa yang dilakukan gitu, sehingga dapat dimunculkan adalah tubuh yang jujur, kepenarian yang jujur gitu. Menarik sekali tadi ketika Mas Wasi mengatakan tidak diindah-indahkan, karena itu apa yang dilakukan itu sudah menjadi bagian dari dirinya sendiri. Kira-kira itu. And for the next speaker, please welcome Miss Karina Yang. The time is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karina.
Morning.
So glad to be here. And yeah, let me
Morning,
share.
Karina.
Is it everybody can see it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I'm Karina. I'm now working in the National Theater and Concert Hall in Taiwan as a project manager, focusing on the dance and theater production, and having previously worked for Guangzhou Arts Festival as a project coordinator. As my job is managing local and international production, we commission local artistic groups for new creation. Besides, curate and invite international artists come to Taiwan, presenting their outstanding works. In 2017, I was in charge of a theater performance called In the Solitude of the Cotton Field as a producer, and collaborating with a French director, Holong Aoze. In the performance, we have two outstanding Taiwanese actresses acting the only two characters. As a cross-national project, the first challenge we have met is the cultural differences in the interpretation. Although our work is based on a well-known script, it's difficult in the produce process. Since it is not only the language interpretation, it ranges from the different background, the perspective, and the cultural knowledge. And for me, it is a process of communication between differences. This experience opens my interest to explore more cross-cultural projects. In promotion of the development of the performing arts, the National Theater and Concert Hall invites and brings together outstanding artists, both at home and abroad, to collaborate, with hopes to bring cultural catalysts to artists and to produce high-quality production that have international vision. Since 2018, we started a cross-cultural dance production with Echo Dance Company. So today, I would like to share the story and the vision of this collaboration, especially portray the insight and dialogue between the two different cultures. First, let me introduce you the two artistic collaborators from Taiwan and Indonesia. The choreographer we collaborate with is Echo Supriyanto, as you may know him much more even than me. Actually, because of the COVID-19, so me and Echo are still online friends. We haven't really seen each other in person. Yeah. Echo is a leading choreographer from Indonesia, acclaimed for his two works, Krajalolo and Bala Bala. As a dancer, he is trained in classical, court dance, martial arts, and contemporary dance. From our perspective of an international presenter of national theater, Echo interrogate traditions, express his home and communities in his culturally diverse country. His works bring a new vision of traditional and cultural issue for Taiwanese audience. And from Taiwan is Wadan Duxi, an exceptional indigenous artist who won Pulima Art Award in 2018 and 2020, which is the biggest indigenous prize in Taiwan. Wadan was the director of Formosa Aboriginal Song and Dance Troupe about 10 years ago, and he has participated in numerous significant Taiwan's Aboriginal traditional culture field studies and many important choreography productions during his years with the troupe. As an active member of Taiwan's indigenous performing arts, Wadan is not only a talented choreographer, but a performer and screenwriter and director. In 2012, Wadan established Dai Body Theater in Hualien County. The crew of Dai Body Theater is composed mostly of indigenous youth from all over Taiwan. Wadan is from the Aboriginal tribe called Telugu, and the company's name Dai in the Telugu language means to look or to see. It is Wadan's passion towards the traditional indigenous culture which make his performance so memorable for us. As an As an indigenous artist, Wadan doesn't use his works on stage to pass on or promote indigenous tradition, because he thinks culture exists in its own context. They might have shown their songs and dance on stage to call for more attention, but that is 20 years ago, and now it's done. Indigenous communities have their own ways on that nowadays, so now he is more focused on what traditional means to him and how he moves forward with it. Not long after Body Theater is established, Wadan's choreography work, Dancing Under the Bridge in 2015 and The Path of Water in the same year have been nominated for the Taixing Art Award, which is one of the most prestigious contemporary arts awards in Taiwan. Actually, this is not the first time that Wadan and Body Theater collaborating with different cultural artists. And of course, it is always a challenge and a long discovering process. In 2017, Wadan and Body Theater had a collaboration with French percussionist Holon Oze, which is also produced by National Theater and Concert Hall in Taiwan. And this dance creation won the first prize in the Pulima Art Award for the performing arts. The cross-cultural collaboration based on the understanding of the essence in indigenous cultures, which even more important is that willing to understand from the both artists. When we discuss about the cultural research and indigenous art, Wadan has mentioned that sometimes we see production that claim to engage indigenous art of culture, yet frankly speaking, it's not true. We don't really see indigenous art in there. The creators use indigenous art as materials and think that's enough to call the works indigenous related. But if they don't see the essence and richness of indigenous art, it's a shame. It happens in cross-cultural productions. There is a huge gap and easily between the imaginary work and real outcome. This is the labor's hut in Hualien, where Wadan's studio is. In indigenous life culture, it is very common that a group of people in the tribe has their own labor's hut for the friends, relatives, and neighbors to they can hang out, spend time together, and build the communities here. And you may see the sentence in the corner of the picture. There's an English says that Dai means look in Telugu language. So it also presents Wadan's gets towards and retrospection of traditional indigenous culture. So in the studio, the dancers all eat together, rehearsal together, drink together, maybe get drunk together, and have their daily life there together. And it is an important form for Body Theater to create their performance, because the art is from the life and how they lived. Actually, you can see the picture. It was just like last weekend, and the dancers are learning Indonesian card dance. Gambyong, I remember it's Gambyong. Yeah. Are there new possibilities for indigenous song and dance other than traditional rituals, ceremony, or tourist performances? In hopes of discovering the answer, Wadan spent 2 years on field research. He has been thinking, could he find his own way of speaking by body other than traditional songs and dance? After all, traditional songs and dance have their significance and only appear in specific time and space. Besides, he doesn't wish to see them as some anthropological or mythological presentation on stage that is detached from reality. So Wadan is thinking if he could find a new vocabulary, or say more like a physical training method, then the dancers will skill or extract the quality texture of their bodies and present them on stage. By understanding the relationship between the feet and land, Wadan documenting over 60 sets of feet movement, and through each round of creative deconstruction and reconstruction, new forms of the body and dance is produced. Here you will see some image of Wadan's foot scripts. The number on the picture shows the orders and the movements of the dancer steps. Foot script is to search a new body language from traditional songs and dance, and show people that there's another kind of indigenous body presence. The language is not about tradition, but about Thai body theater itself. It's a different kind. And then I would like to share the idea of National Theater and Concert Hall matching Wadan and Echo in this collaboration. Wadan and Echo first met at the Jipa Art Festival in 2014 in Indonesia. Echo was invited to present his choreography work, and Wadan led a workshop with foot scripts. Then Echo first came to Taiwan at the invitation of the Innovation Series for the National Theater and Concert Hall in 2017 to perform his international renowned dance works that I have mentioned, Kwaja Lolo and Bala Bala. While Wadan premiered the work Terrace on the Hill at the same festival. Through introduction by the National Theater and Concert Hall, the two met twice after their respective performances to share their artistic concept and initiated a string of manifold artistic ventures, including the necessary of classification as indigenous art and artists. In their dialogue, Echo questioned Wadan's perspective, stimulating Wadan's thinking of culture and perspective in the debate of identity issue. Though there were no immediate resolution of answers, this invited an opportunity for this collaboration. We anticipate an exchange of cultural context and physical training system through this intercultural collaboration. We expect Echo and Wadan will undertake a multitude of ways to redefine indigenous and local performance art in the contemporary context. Additionally, they will explore different ways to carry out such topics from a post-colonial perspective to catalyze disparate perspectives and break new artistic ground. Wadan's cultural body comes from nature's perfection. It's like uncomplicated and unpolished. And Echo's cultural body comes from a solid grounding in Kurt dance and martial art training. For us, Wadan and Echo are located within a contemporary context, embarking with traditional cultural heritage. Wadan's work often touches on the cultural reflections of moving from the tribe village to the city. Echo's work often challenge traditional taboos, triggering contemporary issues. Both focus their efforts on a concern for the land and the humanity into which they were born and raised. There is a deep foundation in traditional culture in both of their dance works. A cohesive body and minimalist movement, a rich rhythmic pause, and the repeated overlapping, and also an indescribable ritualism and powerful spirituality. In 2018 to 2019, we invited two to choreograph works from a different cultural framework and physical training system for the other dancers. Then we have had 2 exchange workshops in Indonesia and Taiwan. We strongly believe that a strong research process and discussion and physical exchange of skills and materials are vital to the quality of this intercultural collaboration. So Wadan and his dancers visit Solo, and Echo also visit Hualien, the east coast of Taiwan. So Wadan will choreograph for Echo's dance troupe, and on contrast, echo well choreographer Waden's dance troupe as well. And they will each gaze upon the other in mutual interrogation in this creative process. So here is a short video of their met I would like to share with you. Can you hear the sound? Let's try again. Okay, after the two chance for them to spend time together and the rich dialogue, we explore the similarity between the two. Is that both artists share a background of belonging to the Austronesian language family, and both artists are descendants of the great navigators of the Pacific, which for Wadan serves as inspiration. The Taiwanese once again able to reach out to and embrace the world. And actually they also find the language similar, like some word in Indonesian is also the word in Aboriginal language in Taiwan. And as a producer, we generate the key intentions in this cross-cultural collaboration, which is an exchange of different cultural contexts, and physical training system is anticipated to occur through cultural impact, which will stimulate possibilities for artistic innovation and dialogue. And through a debate of perspectives, explore how and why indigenous performance art should be redefined in the contemporary context. And the third is seek out topics of mutual concern and a footfall in response to the world through the creative journey. And we also recognize the challenge in the production process. This will be both artists' creative effort working with dancers from the artist's culture, posing a challenge to the contemporary choreography. But actually, we face the bigger challenge first that we never thought about, and neither for the global. That is the outbreak of COVID-19. Wadan's plan was to collect cultural information in Indonesia and see if there's anything he could use in work or he relates to. That's the original plan. But the production process has been interrupted by COVID-19, and due to the international travel restriction, both of them not be able to experience others' culture in person. And after lots of discussion, Wadan then shifted his focus on the new resident and migrant worker in Hualien, Taiwan. And Wadan knowledge Dangdu, a very interesting music in Indonesia, and he starts working from there. The Dangdu music within the new resident and the migrant worker in Taiwan. Wadan is curious about their life experience, leaving home and families, the changes of their lives from being a daughter to a wife to a mother. They listen to Dangdu music, it is their comfort. And Wadan discovered that these migrant workers and new residents share something common with the indigenous people in Taiwan, which is diaspora. Dangdu music connects with indigenous experience of displacement. We do not belong to our own self because of colonization, migration, and isolation from coronavirus. Dangdut music speaks to everybody from migrant workers to indigenous person, from the bottom of society to the bottom of the heart, from Indonesian to Taiwan. And this production is still in the developing process. As a key performance in 2022 in Taiwan International Festival of Art. It actually is going to open the box office next week, very soon. So in the last part, I would like to introduce a bit of the two work for you. So it will be a double bill, we expect it. And Wadan's creation is Ida. Ida means us in Telugu language. Inspired by the contemporary Indonesian pop music of Dangdut, Wadan questions the multifaceted challenge of living in diaspora. Realize that Indonesian Dangdut music is a cultural phenomenon very popular with Indonesian migrant workers in Taiwan. Wadan aimed to explore the detachment of swaying body of various laborers under different music atmosphere to create the bonding of us. And Echo's creation is Ali Ali. Yet we learn the word. The performance draws on the Javanese tradition of Ali Ali, which translated as placenta. Ali Ali described the profound bond between a newborn baby and its energetic twin. Together with two indigenous Taiwanese dancers, Echo uses this metaphor to explore our understanding of taking care and protecting each other, an important element in the Javanese philosophy surrounding birth and new life. Ali Ali also reminds us that as human beings, we have an invisible spiritual connection to our ancestors, families, and tradition. So, yeah, this is what is going to premiere next year, and hopefully we wish these works will also be seen in Indonesia. So thank you for your listening. Thank you for having me here.
Sedikit menyimpulkan, seperti kedua pembicara sebelumnya, Miss Yang juga berbicara tentang bagaimana latar belakang itu berpengaruh pada penciptaan sebuah karya seni. Tidak hanya berbicara tentang latar belakang, tetapi juga berbicara pada lingkungan dan bagaimana tadi disebutkan diaspora mempengaruhi bagaimana sebuah karya seni diciptakan. Berbasis pada kolaborasi yang dilakukan Mas Eko dengan who is the name of the performance that collaborated with Mas Eko? Watan. Yang dilakukan adalah dengan melihat bagaimana kehidupan migran worker di sana. Kembali lagi presentasi ini menguatkan pendapat bahwa sebuah penciptaan itu tidak hanya berdasar pada keindahan atau kekaryaan semata, tetapi juga dapat digunakan untuk membicarakan isu-isu krusial yang mempengaruhi sekitar kita. Kira-kira begitu, bukan kesimpulan ya, tetapi mungkin rangkuman dari ketiga pembicara untuk I'm speaking in bahasa Indonesia. For the question and answer session, if you want, you can speak directly to the speaker and address your question, or if you prefer, you can write your question in the chat section, and then I will translate it for the speakers. This is the first question from Pak Safi'i. Yeah, he said that I think everyone can read this. So, who wants to answer first? Miss Yang or Mas Wasi? What's the question? Pak Safi'i said, how do you develop your bodily intelligence that matches your local culture, nature, and image? The question is for Mas Wasi and Miss Karina Yang.
Ladies first.
Miss Karina, do you want to start first?
Sure. Yeah. As a producer in National Theater, and usually we question ourselves this question to our local artists, and when they are doing their production. In this case, I think like I have shared that Watan in their Aboriginal cultures, they have their like a labor's heart for them to always being together, and that is also a culture to access their culture, their original culture. So that is very important that if they live together and the experience is inside their body. So I think like reply how to say react to the other speakers saying that you cannot just have some beautiful gesture, you should have some culture in body, and that is what the dance group sharing together. So they will have their own body intelligence or body culture, and so that is for the choreographer to have this in their work. Yes.
Thank you, Mas Wasi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sapi, for the great question. I try to answer it. So when we make new choreography based on this culture, of course, after it's according what I mentioned before in my presentation. Actually, after we learn the culture, after we mastering the culture, and the culture it's embodied to ourselves, and then we transfer it to a dancer. Of course, we have to try to bring the dancer to also know about the culture. So not only we give them the vocabulary of the movement, we are not only to push them to move as a structure of the vocabulary of the cultural background. For example, if we want them to sing, it's not only to ask them to sing, not only singing what we give the song. This is the song and sing it. And then this is the movement, move it. It's not only about that. But the movement, it should coming from themselves after they learn the song. And also, of course, the first time we bring them to know and to understand and to read the culture. To read is not only about reading the book of everything about this culture, but how the dancer to be together and to feel what in the environment, to feel the everyday life of this culture. So after we bring them to the culture, for example, like this, we ask them to walk as a Javanese people. Javanese people in the past, actually, not Javanese people right now, of course. In the past, when the dance was created. Because in the past, people, they wear the kain, belt in, apa namanya, disarungkan atau dikainkan, kemudian mereka tidak mungkin kan berjalan dengan cepat. They have to walk slowly. They have to feel when they walk. They have to feel when they eat. The consciousness while they doing something in the everyday life. That's important to do for the dancer to ask to move or to be part of a dancer of this creation. The other example is when we go somewhere else and to create something about the other culture of, so we are as an outsider. It's really difficult to use the dancer that are not from this culture. I see what my Eko did in the Ibu-Ibu Belu, for example, or people in Jailolo. The dancer always live there. Their everyday life is there. They know the sea. They menyelami apa?
Diving.
They do the diving. They see the beauty of the face inside there already. It's really need long journey if we want to work with the dancer that not coming from that culture. It's really, we need a big effort of it. This way they Mas Eko bring some dancer there and then to learn the culture and then diving together and to feel the nature, to feel the wind, to feel the water and everything like that. I'm lucky because I live here and I use the dancer here when I create my work. For example, when I do the opera, they always live here. Even I need them to learn about the essential of the Javanese culture too, to do the movement, so that the movement that coming out from the body is really honest body. What Karina mentioned, it's not only about the beauty movement, but the honest body, that they move honestly from the body, not technically of the movement. Saya kira begitu, Mbak Poppy. Matur nuwun.
Thank you, Mas Wasi. This is a very interesting discussion. Dr. Sadiah, do you want to weigh in on the notion challenging the dominant knowledge that you mentioned before?
Yeah, sure. And actually, I wanted to also add a little bit to this question about how do you build or develop bodily intelligence by just giving an example of how Echo did that for Ibu Belu, whereas Pak Wasi pointed out, that in the case of Ibu Belu, in the other works like Kraja Lolo and Bala Bala, the dances are from the region from which the work originates. But I think the challenge for that is that Echo comes in with a vocabulary, a dance vocabulary, a bodily vocabulary that is new for the dancers from the region. So in that sense, there is also an adaptation needed from the dancers to that. So that was a challenge to sort of explore what were the dancers capable of in bodily terms and in mental terms, etc. And what could Echo bring in from his experience, from his vocabulary, and how could that merge? So what Echo did at one point, when there was sort of a draft choreography already for the full work, is that we brought the dancers to these special places in the landscape where they would usually go for maybe ritual purposes. We brought them to Fulan Fehan, which is a place where a lot of rituals are being carried out, and it has these sacred places. So we had them perform the work there. We went to the beach and we had the dancers perform there to also sort of have them feel the nature as part of the choreography, really feel the land that they're part of, also embodied in the choreography, and sort of bring the choreography and the movements into the bodies and make it one in a sense. And what for me was interesting to notice is that gradually, at first there was this gap that Wasi was also talking about what Echo wished the dancers to do and what the dancers were capable of. And gradually it grew into something very beautiful, in which now the choreography has really become embodied and really part of who the dancers are. And you can really tell that also from how the show has developed and how they're performing it these days. I'm sorry, Ibu Nervita, what was the other question?
No, it's just if you want to weigh in on the notion that when you say about challenging the dominant culture, I was thinking Miss Yang and Mas Wasi also talking about new vocabularies, exploring from the tradition. And I think this is a very important question, important topics to discuss, because based on Mas Wasi experience, based on your perspective on the post-colonial, I think talking about new vocabularies is important to deliver new ideas, new issues. Maybe Mas Wasi or Miss Yang or Dr. Sadiah can weigh in on that matter.
Yeah, so sure, I can say something about that. definitely from my perspective, from like a decolonial approach, I would say, you know, it's the more diversity we see, the better. And it's always interesting to see what is already there. And that is what I mean with like reconnecting and relinking with practices that have already been there, and trying to just connect with them, because they have always been there. It is just a matter of us as practitioners reaching out to dancers who have a practice that we're just not familiar with. It's also something that Asia Topa really tried to do in this new works triennial for the Asia Pacific, to create and establish the intercultural connections, to connect artists and have them engage in a dialogue interculturally, and then create something new. And that new, that is very open. It's open to the interpretation of the artist, what new means to them, and how they want to engage with each other. And sometimes, but it always ends up into a real engagement and a real exchange of experiences, of vocabularies, and into something energetic and dynamic, and in something new that we haven't seen before. And that's also what I really liked about the project between Echo and Watan. You know, this exchange, how Watan is working with Echo's dancers and vice versa, and trying to also provide, I think, fresh perspectives to each other's practice and the things that they've known for such a long time. So thank you so much, Karina, for sharing that as well.
We still have about 40 minutes. Is there any question from the audience? Miss Yang, it is very interesting for me when you mention how Watan responses to dangdut, and they have connection with the indigenous people. Can you elaborate more on that?
Sure. Yeah, and as you may know or may not know, that in the history of Taiwan, maybe not just in Taiwan, that is a global issue, that of Aboriginals that like being colonial, and they just like being forced to move to the mountain, to the another area from the cities. So that is a situation for the Aboriginals in the early days, that they have to leave their cities, their hometowns, to the cities, and become like workers, or to earn money, and they also left their families like this. And also the things for them to being a comfort, or to sharing their emotion together, is also through the songs. And that is the songs, we call the songs of Aboriginal is Lingban songs. And that is also a song that for the workers that far away from home, and they sing together with a guitar. So that is the first impression when Watan knows about the music dangdut, because although dangdut is a very popular music in Indonesia, but actually in Taiwan, by the migrant worker and new residents, they create a different and very unique scene of dangdut, the very different dangdut scenes. And so that is very impressive, because he shows the similarity in the same, like the same story, feel the same. So he tries to know more about dangdut in Taiwan. So we try to contact a researcher in Taiwan, and he is very, very understand and very known for the dangdut music research in Taiwan's migrant worker. So like last month, we tried to know more about the Dangdu, the lyrics, and how does it being created by the migrant worker in Taiwan. Also, we plan to go to a village is in the south of Taiwan. That is a village for migrant worker, especially Indonesian migrant worker, and to experience their Dangdu in the place. And it also followed the last question that how the dancers can embody the culture. So it is very important for us to not just know their history, but also to experience, to hear the music and to weaving together, to dance together with them, and through them to understand more their situation. Yeah, and so yeah, I think that's the things I want to share is about Dangdu. But of course, still that is because the challenge of COVID-19. So we're not really able to come into Indonesia to follow culture, but we want to find a connection between Taiwan and Indonesia, and also this popular music. So that will be a very very important element for WADA's work. Yeah.
Continuing on the COVID-19 situation right now, the three of you, do you have experience or thought on how COVID-19 will impact or maybe creating a different types of collaboration? Mas Wasi, maybe?
Oh my gosh. We deal with this situation right now. Of course, we have to do something that not make us freezing in that situation. I'm not trying to change my way of work, but with new adaptation of it actually. For example, like this, before I work a lot with the dancer and with a lot of musician and everything. In the situation like this, that we cannot to be together in one stage with much more people on stage. Of course, it is difficult for us if we work in this classical, in the classical Javanese dance or in the new classical choreography, for example, because we need much more musician. We need the stage, we need the audience, but right now we deal with the situation. We cannot have more than 10 people on the stage. We cannot more than 10 audience in the auditorium, for example, like that. That's why we have to do something else. For example, we have to do in what should we do to put on the frame and the virtual thing in the screen and everything. So we change the stage from the proscenium stage to the screen stage, for example. And that situation, I have an experience that I tried to create some new song because singing it's easier way to express. Berekspresi dengan musik itu bisa didengarkan, orang-orang bisa mendengarkan. Kalau tubuh, when we deal with the body need an interaction, interaksi langsung, direct interaction from the dancer on the stage to the audience. It's different from the interaction from the dancer on the screen to the dancer, because there's a distance, the atmosphere, the aesthetic and everything, of course, it's different. That's why I try to create some more new songs, so make people, oh, they just need to listen to the song and everything like that, something like that. And then after that, after I create the song, oh, this song is really interesting to have the movement, and how we create something with the dancer to imagine the song, and then to transfer the song to make a voice, to make a sound. The voice itself become the movement. I try some new experience with that, but it's actually not finished yet. And I try to make a new choreography with the a cappella style without a musical instrument to accompanying the dance. So I try to use the sound of the dancer voice, they singing, and then they try them to move, and then we try to put it on screen. But I think it's I still need to do more effort to do it, because it's really difficult to transform the energy from the screen to the audience. Right now, it's what, according to myself, what I'm thinking. And also it's challenging too for me how we deal with this. And then like about the question before, the challenging thing, how to make the intelligent body for something like that, how I use the classical diatonic European idiom, and then how it make a collaboration with classical pentatonic Javanese idiom on the voice and coming through the body. That's what I try to do, Mbak Poppy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mas Wasi. There's one question from Mas Eko. It's in the chat. In the world of performing arts nowadays, it is important for three of you to then elaborating such a knowledge that we are in the post-colonial era. How Karina curating the themes or artists, or the theme of dangdut and social workers of Indonesia that in this issue. Also Dr. Sadiah on repositioning this issue as a curator nor producer. And Mas Wasi, how to repositioning your Javanese body of a global discourse to whom not on the position of classical arts. That's from Mas Eko. Kemudian ada one question from Mr. Purnawan Andra for all the speakers. Due to condition all over the world of COVID-19, what do you all see and or think as an artist, as a producer, and also as the part of the world of performance arts to deal with it? Because we know that the condition make us couldn't meet, to move together, to explore the body, to prepare a new performance. How we describe it as a knowledge of nature colonialization, because we know that COVID spread from microbiology that live in nature surrounding us. In order to, according to Dr. Sadiah term, to decolonialize it. I'm so sorry. That's two questions. Maybe start from Mas Eko's comment.
Maybe Karina first to answer that.
Ms. Yang or Dr. Sadiah?
Okay. Yeah, I think that my answer is like similar to the last answer I have given, that it's very important for the choreographer, also the dancers, to experience the culture, to find what is their questions, what they want to question or what they want to ask the world. So so I think in Wadan's creation, that is just like the life near him, because in Hualien, the county in the west side of Taiwan, and there is a huge tribe of Aboriginals, and also there's a lot of new residents from the Southeast Asia. So that is really the culture just near him. So that is what he feel the most. And also because have the chance to collaborate with Indonesian artists and Indonesian dancers, that is a key point that like raise him to like develop the issues for him to to question more and to feel the comments in his own culture and the life he has seen. Yeah.
Mas Wasi or Doctor wants to give a comment?
Maybe Dr. Sadiah first.
Oh, okay, sure. Thanks so much for the question, Mas Eko. It's a huge question, I feel, and I think I'm gonna give a bit of an academic answer first, in the sense that I make a distinction between coloniality and colonialism, understanding coloniality as structures of colonialism that are ongoing. So that gives us the opportunity to trace, the historian that I am, to trace back colonial structures from the colonial period, but that have not been necessarily decolonized today, such as racial hierarchies, cultural hierarchies, the categories that I was talking about, such as tradition and modernity. Those kind of like ways of thinking are still very much of the present, and it's still very much around, in our daily life, across the world. So for me, thinking of coloniality as a sort of like ongoing structures of values, structures of power, of colonialism is helpful for me to understand, or to try to understand and analyze what are still colonial structures today, as opposed to sort of like decolonization as a moment in history in which the local elites were able to take hold of the state, so take over political power, as decolonization as a moment in history. So for me, the decolonial approach, so this attitude of trying to move away from a Eurocentric, moving away from the so-called universal way of thinking and understanding art and knowledge, is for me really important. It means that also I try to really uncover coloniality, like how does it work? What are the structures that we're talking about? How does it work? How does it still influence the way that we are producing knowledge, producing art, and then try to challenge it by being aware of it and trying to consciously look at that, trying to find ways, at least for myself, trying to find ways, people that I can work with, artists such as Mas Eko himself, but also visual artists and others, to further this kind of like thinking and develop projects and new art that can lead to new understandings, new knowledges, and try to bring that to an international platform.
Mas Wasi?
Oke, terima kasih. Thank you, Mas Eko, for the great question. I answer the last question from Mas Eko. I have an example from the movie, actually. The example is when we see the Marvel movie or the DC comic movie. We see the Superman, Batman, and then when we see the Spider-Man in the term of Marvel movie, they really have the awareness of the situation of the people and the situation of the global issues and everything. The costume of the Batman and Superman, they change the color, and they not use the blue color anymore, red color anymore, that really the bright blue or the bright red. But right now they try to change the costume into gray. They realize that the people right now has a virtual eyes. Virtual eyes, it means that they always see the laptop, they see the cell phone and everything. That's not familiar anymore with the nature. The eyes not familiar with the color of mountain, the color of sky, and the color of the plant and everything. That's why they change the costume, and then they change the movement and the technology adapted to it, and then they try to do something about the story. It's not only about the hero, good and bad, and now they try to make a new perspective from the antagonic position, like they make a Joker, something, the antagonic position of the Batman movie, for example, like that. In the term of that example is actually when we deal with the body itself, our body as a Javanese classical dancer, and then we realize what the global issues right now, and they see what they need. So in dealing with that kind of thing, we try to see that what we need our body to adapt it to that situation. The body, if we just do the body with this costume as a Javanese classical dance, for example, is that still familiar for the people who see right now, especially for people in Javanese people here right now? Are they still familiar with the movement that really slow, and then the movement with the music and gamelan and everything? They listen to it, they're not familiar anymore. But we have that kind of great cultural, the classical cultural is already in our body. That's why when we deal with that, we can do something not only about, people cannot see the slow movement anymore, so we make the movement getting faster than before. It's not only about that, but we should know and realize that we have to coming out the movement itself coming from our body. It's still Javanese classical dance in my body, for example. As a dancer, it's already embodied in my body. But the movement that I try to adapt it with this global situation, and then I try to adapt it with my skin anymore, with this environment right now, and the situation of the eyes and everything, and then try to make it, not try to make it faster, not try to make it, we delete other element, but we try to still put the essential value in there with the movement, but we try to make it familiar with the eyes of people right now. For example, I do, when I move, I try to use my voice to express and to make it a kinesthetic. That's the way I said, like the voice kinesthetic. How it's not only listening and then moving, but we moving, developing from the voice. And in this term, actually, we try to use not using, quote unquote, Western idiom, since I'm also in the post-colonial field, so I don't want to say like West and East actually. But we try to make it like in people in European or US see our movement is still dance, is still Javanese dance, but familiar with their eyes. And people in Java also, at least, I don't know, I'm not sure that what I'm trying to do is already make the people interesting, or people right now see this as now movement, but this one is still trying out and experimental, Mas Eko. And of course, I just try to make, like what I mentioned, the honest body from the voice, honest body from that I'm developing from what I saw in the other opera, for example, from the Les Miserables, when we see like the cats, and then when we see Phantom of the Opera and the other kind of opera, and then try to make it, we can do something new in Javanese classical opera, for example, just as that simple. And I still doing the experimenting, and then maybe never-ending experiment. And for Mas Purnawan Andra, yeah, actually I just talked about that in my answer before.
Okay.
Okay.
Before Miss Yang comment on Mas Eko's comments, Dr. Sadiah, there is maybe a specific question for you in the chat. Please, Ms. Yang, your comment on Mas Eko's questions.
Sorry, which questions? Mas Eko or Andra?
Mas Eko first.
Echo. Yeah, I already respond to.
Okay.
Yeah. So is the question from Andra?
From Pak Andra.
Pak Andra. Okay. Yes. The condition of COVID-19 is like a global issue and always have these questions. And for me, as a producer in National Theatre, I feel like we still can have new creations with international artists, but it really depends on the expressive form of the creation they would like to create. So like if it's a theater performance, or if their performance is focused on maybe the scene or the topic or the technology, then of course it works. But for me, in like this cross-cultural production, that we really need to have the rich cultural experience and the culture embodied. And so that is very important, that we still have to meet each other in person. Then of course in the produce process, we can do a lot of research by internet, by sharing information, or by like through screen. We can do a lot of things, and we can do local research. But for this dance collaboration, we insist that eventually we have to meet together. We have to feel their atmosphere, their bodies, and how they express their emotions. Yeah, but that is also, I think that is also a limit of technology nowadays. Even though now we have technology that we can interview, we can do the online messengers and something, and we have a little bit advanced in the virtual reality, but that is just an option now. So I have an imagination, like if the technology goes very well and very fast, and the virtual reality that can make us feel the body or feel the person far away very, very well, then maybe this is possible. But of course, we don't know the technology in 1 year, 2 years, or maybe 10 years. So yeah, that is my opinion that in this cross-cultural collaboration, and we very focus on the body's expression, that COVID-19 is really a big challenge for us. Okay.
Dr. Sadiah?
Sure, thank you for the interesting question. I have so many things to say about this, I think. The first thing that comes to mind about how to decolonize nature is an exhibition that I curated entitled On the Nature of the Botanical Gardens, which was on show last year at Frame of Framed in Amsterdam. And there I addressed the nature of botanical gardens, like how natural are botanical gardens, and in extension thereof also the concept of nature. So from a decolonial approach, one would say that nature is already basically created by coloniality as well. Like the separation of human beings from nature is a colonial invention. And it's a distinction, the distinction between human beings and nature does not exist in all cosmologies around the globe. There are many cosmologies that don't have that distinction, and that distinction between man and nature is meaningless. So to think of like the impact of COVID-19 and how we could decolonize this idea of the concept of nature, I would say, to sort of like, I would be very interested in that. Like for the exhibition, what I did is that I worked with 9 Indonesian artists who all sort of like critically looked at the colonial roots and the coloniality of botanical gardens, and also subvert and challenged the idea of how nature is separated from human beings. And still in Hindu, Buddhist, and Javanese cosmologies, there are still stronger connection between man and nature. So for me as a curator and as a producer, I would be very much interested to then work with artists who are already working on topics like nature, environmental issues, and things as such, or, from my perspective, from a decolonial approach, and then create something together. So it has to be someone who is really connected with local or indigenous knowledges and really already embody that, and then work from there and find also the right, I think also to find the right platform to show that, so that it is really another perspective and a voice in the global discourse. So that is, I think, what I could add from my point of view as a curator, historian, producer. Thanks.
Thank you. There is no more question. Is there any more question from the audience? We still have about 15 minutes. But if not, this is a very productive and interesting morning for me, because we talk a lot about decolonialization, about maybe I'm wrong, culture of apa tadi?
Culture of the body.
Culture of the bodies. That's a new term for me, because actually I'm not from dance department, so I learned a lot. Since there is no question from the audience, I will return this forum to the beautiful Rani. Thank you very much for the discussions, and I apologize for the shortcoming from my part. Thank you very much. Rani?
Thank you, Nurs. Narvita Prima Dewi, M.Sn, moderator for the first international seminar on choreographic and artistic research today. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for all crew and all speakers for today. Thank you. I'm Maharani Dewi. See you next time.